It's worth bearing in mind the Chinese adage from the 6th century BC, know yourself, know your enemy. So far it's very Greek, but then he goes on and says, and in 100 battles you will never be defeated. Absolutely. Keir Starmer clearly took the maxim to heart at Labour's Liverpool conference today. Instead of shadow boxing with a fading Conservative Party, well, what's the point of taking up Kemi Badenoch? She can do that job herself. He decided to define the fight against Nigel Farage and Reform UK. His keynote speech was built around a stark fork in the road, renewal or decline, decency or division, and he talked about reclaiming patriotism, flags for all across England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, no surrender to national pride hijacked by the nationalists, by the so-called patriots, by the Tommy Robinson lot, by the Farage lot. Drawing a moral red line, racist intimidation is criminal, it's not free speech, said Starmer. The mass deportation policy floated by Reform was racist and immoral. Absolutely. And NHS Online from 2027, millions more appointments and apprenticeship, plus university skills ladder and cautious fiscal realism. These were the basic building blocks of his speech. They were boring. But and then he talked about justice and peace, the new Hillsborough law, as proof that the state can be forced to tell the truth. And the Prime Minister's purpose was to present Labour as the patriotic, competent party of national renewal and to portray Farage as the peddler of grievance, a snake oil merchant thriving on national failure. Or a rat, really. King Rat. But was Farage the right person to take on King Rat? Was Farage the right Dick Whittington? Would a rat be intimidated by Farage's dick? Or should we wait for somebody to take on that role? So, Labour strategists think a simple binary helps. Undecided 2024, Labour voters return when asked to choose Starmer or Farage. A strong Reform vote can also split the right. But critics inside Labour fear the opposite. Constant name-checking flatters Farage, and if the Conservatives collapse further, the right may consolidate behind Farage rather than Kemi Badenoch or Robert Jenrick. And Farage has responded already with well-honed outrage and humour. He accused Labour of obsession. Never before have I seen one name so dominate a conference. Mine. He claims Starmer branded millions racist, endangering Reform activists and inciting the radical left. He cast himself as the patriot, Starmer as a human rights lawyer who bows to foreign courts. He painted Britain as broken, crime, NHS waiting lists, clogged roads, and promised Reform would deliver real change. He framed May's nationwide, local and devolved elections as a referendum on Labour. It was classic Farage, victimhood plus populist swagger. But what he tried very hard not to mention was the Nathan Gill story about Reform UK taking Russian money. While Farage rails against Labour's gutter politics, his movement actually faces its own integrity test. Nathan Gill, the former UKIP Brexit Party MEP, briefly Reform UK's leader in Wales, he's pleaded guilty in the Old Bailey to taking Russian-linked bribes. So the story that Farage is linked to Putin and Russia is real. Nathan Gill accepted payments from pro-Kremlin fixer Oleg Voloshin to make speeches and organise events in the European Parliament supporting Russian narratives on Ukraine. Counter-terrorism officers found the WhatsApp trail. Gill expects jail in November, and rightly so. That doesn't prove Reform UK as a party is Moscow's pawn, but it damages its anti-establishment patriotic image and gives weight to critics, including the journalist Calum Robertson, who have long warned about Russian influence networks on Britain's populist right. For Starmer, attacking Farage draws a bright moral line and simplifies the electoral choice, but it is risky theatre. It can inflate his opponent's stature and distract from delivery. For Farage, outrage fuels the brand, but Russian money headlines threaten his claim to pure people-powered patriotism. For voters, the clash is between a governing project promising sober renewal and a protest movement promising a rupture, now clouded by questions of foreign influence. If Labour really wants to know its enemy, it must pair the moral argument with visible delivery. Shorter NHS waits, safer streets, controlled but fair migration. If that happens, reform becomes a noisy protest rather than a viable alternative. If not, Farage will keep feeding grievance, and the fact that one of his ex-leaders took Kremlin cash may not be enough to blunt the anger. I think, on reflection, I go back to the image of King Rat, because I think it's a good image, and it was the first panto I was in, and I played the alderman, and I had lots of lines about what is your name. Oh, Dick, is it? Well, this is really the problem. Dick Whittington is a hero, and he defeats, or at least his cat defeats, King Rat. But Farage has no cat. Not Farage, what's his name? Keir Starmer. That's the point. Keir Starmer is almost forgettable. And he has no cat. And it doesn't matter how much he claims to be the Dick who is going to defeat King Rat. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. It's all noise and bluster. He sings the song and then he forgets what he's doing halfway through the show. I don't think that Keir Starmer has got enough dick in him to pummel King Rat in any real way. I don't think there's very many dicks around in the Commons chamber who can take on King Rat at the moment. And that is the biggest problem. That is I mean, there are plenty of foolish politicians, but there's not one who is going to rise above the rest and say, I am a dick among parliamentarians and I will defeat King Rat. They won't. And Starmer is not up to that job. And that is a worrying reflection.